RWBY Volume 7, Chapter 13, The Enemy of Trust. The season finale has officially released, so let me break it down for you. So, fights are happening. Neo versus Orange and Penny and Winter versus Cinder. The Neo one is just a bit of a cat and mouse game, who can get the relic, and at the end of the day, it's Neo. The Cinder fight is a bit more engaging. While an inside fight eventually turns into a dog fight, it ultimately leaves Winter with a broken aura, plummeting to her death. Valuing the purpose of life or whatever, Penny chooses to save Winter while Cinder goes off to claim the Winter powers. But Freya still has a little bit of that crouching dementia hidden maiden still in her, and goes nuclear. It's too cold for anyone to get through, except for Penny, cause she's a robot, and she calms her down. With it no longer being too cold, Cinder realizes she can re-enter the equation, but Winter is there to once again battle her. Penny doesn't know what to do, help fight, or take the maiden powers for herself. She chooses the latter, and Penny becomes the Winter Maiden, with green flames. Nothing says winter like the color green. Literally nothing happens afterwards because Ruby shows up and Silver Eyes Cinder away. Winter then allows the group to leave, but is still placing them as criminals. Meanwhile, Oscar went to go change Ironwood's mind. He has a really good scene with him saying that he's not there to fight, refusing to do exactly what the enemies want them to do, and overall asking Ironwood with the best of his heart to figure out another solution. But Ironwood's been being fed a little bit of that crazy dialogue, and he refuses. Even going so far as to hit Oscar with a shot from the hip, breaking his aura, causing him to plummet for over half of the episode. But Ozpin reemerges, and all of his memories and physical capabilities manifest themselves into Oscar, and they live, cause Oscar hit them with that superhero landing. You can't hide it, I see it for like that one frame it's there. So everything's looking great. The heroes are wanted, the enemies have a relic, everyone's mental is completely boomed. Things have never looked better. But the season needs a cliffhanger, so what does the series do to make things more dramatic? Cue the Godzilla music, because here comes another Kaiju Grim. But this time, Salem's on the back. And she's got a dress that makes her tits look kinda weird in 2D. Someone had to say it. So, let's start with the Neo versus Juniper fight. I think it was below standard. In a very similar way to the Ironwood versus Watts fight, there's a shtick to the whole thing, which doesn't inherently mean it's a bad fight, but it clearly did not help. I think Neo has been severely nerfed for this one. We all know what happened last episode and how she was somehow hit by the most telegraphed punch a human being could possibly make. You couldn't get more telegraphed if you tried. But in general, I don't think the fight was that fun or that entertaining. In fact, there was a moment here I would actually say was disgusting. There's a moment in this fight when Neo is about to attack Oscar, and the scene goes slow motion. Usually when this is done, you wind up with a get down Mr. President sort of interference. And that does happen here. But traditionally, the scene will carry on in slow motion because it began that way and it's sort of part of the same sequence of events. But here, Jean steps in normal speed, and it is the most awkward looking transition I've ever seen. It was like a high school play, and Jean was just waiting off the side of the frame and was told, your turn, go on stage. And he just awkwardly walked into the center of frame and took his pose. It was not natural. The only other thing worth a mention was Ren crying. What? This is probably the weirdest thing I saw the entire episode. Was he crying because he almost hit Nora? The two never sparred. Once again, this just leads into what I was saying last episode. Like, all of a sudden, Ren and Nora have this thing that is pushing their character development, but in a volume where they haven't been relevant for like 5 episodes, there's just no time to do this. If you want to develop Ren and Nora, don't just sprinkle in random seeds, pay it proper attention, and don't try to do it in the background of random moments during the plot. That's all I have to say on there a lot. Bog standard, well that's Team Juniper for you. Let's jump to the Maidens. This fight I think was a lot more grand and much more entertaining overall. But when it came to the decision to give Penny the Maiden powers, I tell you what, that's a decision I don't like. In fact, I kinda hate it. I knew it was always a possibility. It was never out of my mind that the Maiden powers were dead set on one specific character. I thought Penny could get it because that was her purpose back in Volume 3. I thought Neo could get it because it was a possibility. Cinder was on the table, but for God's sake, I probably would have just killed myself if she did. And of course, there was the one the volume was pushing, Winter. There's two things at play here that I really don't like about Penny getting the powers. One, God forbid Team Ironwood get any sort of win this volume. I'm shocked as to how much I like him and his team, despite being shafted at every single opportunity. But the main reason I don't like this is I think the writers just felt the need to subvert expectations. That's all this was. Thought it was going to Winter, we were mentioning it at every turn, and right when it was supposed to happen, it goes to someone else. It wasn't necessary. It really wasn't. It's like the writers think predictability is a bad thing. If you're constantly saying this volume, Winter is to be the next Winter Maiden, it's not a bad thing. If you make her the next Winter Maiden. The only reason she didn't become the next Winter Maiden is because A, she's on Ironwood's side and they cannot be given any sort of win, and B, she doesn't understand or value human emotions or some shit like that. But the main purpose of it was just to subvert your expectations. Penny's exactly like Team RWBY, and it's fucking boring. Winter's interesting. She's got her own set of ideals. She values different things. She trusts certain people. There's no other characters like Winter, but the amount of people who have the exact same ideals as Penny, well, I'm looking at about 8 of them. So I think that was an absolute tragedy, but you know, I will say I do have hope that Penny will die next volume because of that giant space whale. Penny, Pietro, you're done. Also, this isn't relevant to any of the characters, but if you didn't think Aura continues to be the most inconsistent, ever-changing factor of the show, then look no further than Winter versus Cinder. You know Aura, that thing where they made it if it broke you became the most absolutely useless meat sack in existence? Well, not with Winter. You know, Adam's aura breaks, absolutely useless. Literally every single one of the Aesop's auras break, can't even move. Tyrion's aura breaks, he's down for the count. Winter's aura breaks, oh, you know, just casually 1v1ing a maiden. Good to know at least one character can still fight without an aura. Maybe you should give the memo to everyone else. But yeah, I'd have liked to see the powers go to Winter because the season has been saying they'll go to Winter, and it would not have been a bad thing if they went to Winter. It'd have just placed that much more responsibility on an already incredibly interesting and trustworthy character. But now they're with Penny, and you can clearly see which side she's going to be on. Anyway, then there was Oscar and Ironwood. I tell you what, I like this scene a lot. Firstly, Oscar, brilliant. He's remained incredibly consistent throughout this entire volume. He comes off as concerned, worried, but still on Ironwood's side. He recognizes Ironwood is not the villain, and he's trying to reel him back. He's gone a little, cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. I just really liked Oscar this scene. But I guess that also brings up Ozpin. Shockingly, I really liked his speech. It was very thematically appropriate and just fit very well. It'll be interesting to see if Oscar keeps him hidden or tells everyone that he's back. You know, I'll be honest, part of me did miss Ozpin. I know, I hate him. I've drug his name through the mud for years, and deservedly so. But I missed him. Unless he just virtue signals like the group, then fuck him, get him out of here. Then there was Ironwood. Firstly, I don't have a problem with the way he's acting, but I don't think the season had enough time to properly transition him to this point. I mean, because for like 8 or 9 episodes of 13, Ironwood's decisions, his reactions, how he was handling situations was perfect in every sense of that word. He took hearing of Salem's existence better than any of the characters. It was almost too perfect of a reaction with how calm he was. But then they needed him to be a crazy guy, and it was just too fast. Like, I think I see where they're going with this. Ironwood is the Tin Man, that's his inspiration of course, and his whole shtick is his heart. The Tin Man doesn't have one, and at this point, neither does Ironwood. And I think next volume he's going to learn whatever lesson, which will re-give him his heart and compassion, whatever that means. That's where I think they're going with this. But Ironwood's turn was just too abrupt and too unnatural. But aside from the failings of the past episodes, which hurt this one, boy did he have a badass scene. You cannot tell me that him shooting Oscar was not one of the most badass things you've seen in the entirety of this franchise. Not only does he have a stone cold delivery, but he also hit him with the one-liner,
James, that's what my friends call me. To you, it's General.
And then he quick draws from the hip. Has this become an old spaghetti western? Oh my god, what an alpha he is. That'll get some pussies wet. Well, I'm getting a semi. That moment right there is just absolute gold for like a cold open to a volume. And quite frankly, I'm upset it wasn't now. Just imagine.
James, it's what my friends call me. To you, it's General.
This moment was better than any fight this volume. Fuck it, the past 3 volumes, dude. I guess I should say, am I shocked that he shot Oscar? Absolutely not. He was going to let like thousands die at Mantle. I'm not shocked that he shot a kid. But technically, he only broke his aura. Oscar survived the shot. If he didn't walk to a ledge, he wouldn't have possibly plummeted to his death. Now, if it was Ozpin, then I'd be shocked, because Ironwood likes Ozpin. But Oscar, that's something I could have bet he was willing to part ways with. And I guess this does lean into the cliffhanger of Salem's arrival, because I do like that it left us with that, because there's very clearly a common enemy amongst the people now. Ironwood's plan has not come to fruition, and it is highly likely that everyone is going to put their differences aside to deal with Salem. It doesn't end with Ironwood being painted as the villain for the next volume. I mean, it would be stupid if there was a common enemy and 2 people of the same side fought each other while a dangerous murderer was still in the equation, right? The show would never do something so stupid, would they? Speaking of the idiot I'm totally not referring to, Crow gets arrested. Wasn't the whole reason the 2 were fighting was because Crow didn't want to get arrested? What's the point in this? Was he just too sad? Oh, I'm gonna fight you, ultimately to the death, but now you're dead, so I guess I'll get arrested and let the whole reason you died go to waste. Oh, also Robin's perfectly fine. Turns out they did not need to give her immediate medical attention. She woke up as if it were a nap. What an unnecessary sequence of events. Then there was Cinder. She hasn't gotten any better, I'm afraid. She has this whole thing where she's yelling at Winter about Atlas controlling power and not sharing it or something like that. And it's incredibly hypocritical, because all she is a walking, talking, power-seeking freak. She still doesn't have any motivation. The question of why regarding Cinder still isn't answered. Why is she doing what she's doing? Quite frankly, she's not interesting enough as a character to carry her own subplot, because it seems quite clear to me that she's not on Salem's side anymore, and she's just working for her own self-interest. The most interesting thing about her is Emerald and Mercury. What they see in her, God only knows. But she's definitely pushing Neo closer to that edge of backstabbery. Please do it. She's the least interesting character you have in this franchise. And that's saying something. I don't want to mention literally everything about the volume because this is the finale, but I'll save everything for the season review. I will say I'm incredibly disappointed that we didn't return back to Willow and Whitley. I'd have liked to see more of them. They feel like they were just left abruptly in the season as if there was supposed to be a resolution with them that didn't happen. I don't want to discuss everything, but I feel very similarly to how I did about last episode, in which I'm left kind of disappointed. You see all the things this season was trying to do, and it just didn't have enough time to do all of the things that it wanted. It's not that the episode did many things that were inherently bad as a concept. The only thing I really didn't like was Penny getting the maiden powers. But the moment these ideas had been executed on screen, you see what went wrong prior. It all comes down to time. Volume 7 just didn't have the proper time to do everything. It feels like a season that has been paraphrased down into this. There were a lot of portions of the volume that were really good. Most of it, arguably. But after finishing everything, you see all the holes that were missed in between. With more time, the payoff could have been the same, just having been built up to these events infinitely better. As a concept, most decisions were fine, but seeing the execution showed that the season need either more time or less ambitions. I'll go into much more detail when I get my season review out, so be on the lookout for that whenever that gets done. But moral of the episode is Winter, despite having a cold name, is hot.